Namaste, welcome friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this lesson, I would like to share some secrets with you, some techniques that are not used by every astrologer and that are not so commonly known. These techniques involve knowledge of the Arudha. The Arudha is an illusion that other people have about us. Particularly, I want to teach you how to calculate the Upapada, how to calculate the Arudha of every single house. I want to tell you a little bit more about the meaning and the depth of the Arudha. We're going to explore the Darapada, which is the Arudha of the 7th house, and that is how we perceive or how our experience of dating is perceived and then what we love. We're going to explore the Upapada, which is the marriage point, which is the Arudha of the 12th house, and which is how our marriage is perceived. The Upapada is an amazing technique. The knowledge of the Upapada allows us to see every single marriage or every single long-term horoscope in the chart. The knowledge of the Upapada will help us to see who is the person that we are going to spend the majority of our life with. Where does this person come from? What are their qualities? We're also going to explore houses from the Upapada, and therefore the Upapada itself is the partner that we end up with, is also our experience of that partner. The 2nd house from the Upapada is that which nourishes our relationship, and the 12th house from the Upapada is that which causes our marriage to lose. The 8th house is the end of that relationship, and planets or a sign in the 8th house or the house of the 8th house, the house from Lagna, from the 8th house from the Upapada, will reveal what can break that relationship. So this knowledge is extremely important. Lastly, we're going to explore the relationship between the padas. So we're going to explore the relationship between the Upapada, the relationship between the image of our marriage, the Arudha Lagna, the image of ourselves, and the Darapada, which is the image of our love. This is step 4 in our series on understanding relationship karma. Let's start. I taught how to calculate the Arudha in lesson 1. However, in this lesson, I want to reveal some more details. Let's do a quick review. To calculate the Arudha of any house, we just have to count from the house itself or from the sign itself to the lord of the house. For example, to calculate the Arudha Lagna, which is the image of the 1st house, we just have to calculate from the Lagna to the lord. If we have the Virgo ascendant, who is the lord of Virgo? It is Mercury. So for a Virgo ascendant, if Mercury, let's say, is placed in Capricorn, which is the 5th house, then we count from Virgo to Capricorn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Capricorn, and then we count 5 houses again from Capricorn. Therefore, for Virgo ascendant, or for this example, the Arudha Lagna would be in Taurus, in the 9th house. There are some exceptions to this rule. The Arudha Lagna, being the image, being an illusion, can never be situated on the axis of truth. The axis of truth is the 1st and the 7th house of something. Therefore, if a person has the lord of a house in the sign itself, in the house itself, or in the opposite sign, then we will automatically move to the 10th house from that sign. The 10th house is the highest point of the sun. It's the point of the greatest visibility. So if any person has their ascendant lord in the ascendant, the Arudha Lagna won't be in the ascendant itself. Because this world is the world of Maya. This world is never exactly what it appears to be. So even a person will never be exactly as they appear. So if the ascendant lord is in the ascendant, then we will use this rule of the exception and we will move to the 10th house from there. This will apply to all the houses. Let's understand a bit more deeply what actually is the Arudha. The Arudha is the image that other people have about us, and therefore it is of utmost importance for relationships and for career. The Arudha has The Arūḍhas have a great social element. Our ascendant, also called the Lagna, is our personality and who we are. The Arudha Lagna is how other people see our personality. So coming back to our earlier example of a Virgo ascendant. If Virgo ascendants generally, they're very intelligent people, they're smart, they're curious, they have great analytical gifts. If Mars would be in Virgo, this person also will be quite fiery in their nature, they'll be proactive, maybe slightly aggressive. If the Arudha is in Taurus in the 9th house, and let's say if the Arudha Lagna is also conjoined Jupiter, maybe not many people will be aware of this Mars element in the Lagna, of that more angry element. People will think that this person will be like Jupiter, since Jupiter is conjoined their Arudha Lagna, their image point. If in contrast Saturn would be conjoined their image point, then this person will easily be blamed and easily be punished. Everyone will only see their misdeeds. Everyone will only see the suffering that they're causing other people because Saturn is there on the Arudha Lagna. We can apply the same principle to the other Arudhas. For example, we have the Arudha of the 7th house. The 7th house is how other people see our love life, how other people see our relationships, our partnering. If there is Saturn with the Darapada, with the Arudha of the 7th house, other people see that we have a bad time in partnerships, in dating. And you see the Arudha, it is an image, and an image, it is not real, but it is also not completely wrong. So whatever the Arudhas indicate, it is 50% made up, it is 50% the wrong perception, but it is also 50% the reality. So therefore, if there's malefics with the Darapada, not only do others perceive that we have a difficult time in partnership, but we'll also have a more difficult time. Let's explore the Darapada in more detail. The Darapada can only be placed in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th, 10th, or 11th house. In any horoscope that you will see, the Darapada will always be placed in one of these 6 houses. If our Darapada is conjoined with benefics and aspected by benefic planets, we have a very good experience of falling in love. We have a very good experience of partnership, of dating, particularly before marriage. If the Darapada is conjoined with malefic planets, that will make it harder. It means that our experience of dating, of partnership, is more difficult. Whichever house the Darapada, we often write it as the A7, the Arudha of the 7th house, whichever house your A7 is placed in, also will tell us one realm of our life that we really love, that we have a lot of affection to. Recently, I saw one client and she had her Darapada in the 9th house. So she had a lot of affection for her gurus and teacher. The Darapada was conjoined the Uttarapada, the A5. Therefore, also she had a lot of affection for her children and for her students. The Darapada was conjoined her moon. Unfortunately, the moon was afflicted by the glance of Mars and Saturn. Therefore, there was an emotional burden, an experience of emotional burden associated to dating. Luckily, this dating in general is only a very short time of our life. The Darapada is only active for a very short time. Once a relationship matures, we have to judge the Upapada. The Upapada is the indicator of marriage. In the same way like the 7th house is relationships, true, it is partnership, but the 12th house is marriage. If our partner has his ascendant or key placements in trine to our Darapada, we naturally have a lot of affection for them. We can contrast the Darapada with the Shatrupada. The Shatrupada is the Arudha of the 6th house. If you want to do compatibility, very quickly, in 5 seconds, if you want to know this person and that person, are they compatible, have a look at their Shatrupad. If one of the prospects has their ascendant directly in the Shatrupad of the other person, that will not be a good match. Because other people will activate placements in our chart based on their ascendant, based on strong planets in their horoscope. So, for example, if we have our Shatrupad, let's say we have our Shatrupad in Cancer, and we meet another person who is Cancer ascendant, there is a much greater likelihood that we're going to compete with them, that we're going to fight with them, and that sooner or later they will reveal their identity as an enemy or a competitor. You will often see in sports, in wrestling, in boxing, in car racing, you will see that some of the greatest competitors have their sign in their Shatrupads respectively. So don't marry a person with the ascendant sign in your Shatrupad. And if your partner has their ascendant sign or Navamsha Lagna in your Darapada or in trines of your Darapada, that is a very favorable combination. The most important of all the Ārūḍhas after the Arudha Lagna is the Upapada Lagna. We can understand this just from the name. The Upapada Lagna is the Arudha of the 12th house. And we could call it the Vyayapada, the Pada of the house of loss. But we call it the Upapada Lagna. Upa means another. Pada means like an Arudha, another foot. And then we say Lagna. Lagna means ascendant. So the Arudha Lagna, the Arudha of the first house, we can read the entire chart from the Arudha Lagna as an ascendant. So also we can read the Arudha of the 12th house as Lagna, as an entire chart. And whose chart is it? It is the chart of our first long-term partner. The Upapada Lagna can only fall in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 8th, 9th, or 10th house. We want the Upapada Lagna to be associated with benefics. If the Upapada Lagna is associated with benefic planets, we have a positive experience in our first marriage. If the Upapada Lagna is with Venus and the Moon, we have an extremely nourishing partner like Venus and the Moon. The person just showers us with love. If it is the Moon and Jupiter, the person will be exquisitely beautiful, maybe famous. If it is just Jupiter, this person will give so much in marriage. This person will take so much good care of us. Just give and give and give without asking for much in return. If the Upapada Lagna is with Saturn, then there's this feeling of restriction in marriage. We might have to clean up after our partner. Our partner expects us to do everything in return. Our partner might just leave the laundry around and ask us, oh, pick it up, clean it. I want dinner ready at this time every day. There's a little difficulty with Saturn is with Upapada. There is not only one Upapada Lagna, but there's many. However, the first one is the most important. In Vedic astrology, the first of everything is always the most important. Like the first house is the most important among all the houses. In the listing in the scriptures, the first item they say it's often the most important. So the first Upapada Lagna is the most important. It is also our first marriage, our first partner. The second house from the Upapada becomes very important too. The second house from the Upapada Lagna is what feeds our marriage. So we want benefic planets also in the second house from the Upapada Lagna. If there's benefic planets, it means there's good things that feed our marriage, good experiences. If there's malefics, then that can break a marriage. So sometimes we see people who have a very beautiful marriage, but it doesn't last. And that means there's benefics conjoined to Upapada Lagna, but malefics in the second house. So it was a beautiful experience, but bad things were feeding it and therefore it broke. And sometimes we see people stay in marriages which are really difficult. I remember I saw one person, he had a debilitated Rahu in the 8th house conjoined to Upapada. And it was a very difficult marriage. He was a very spiritual person, but his partner was not so spiritual. And after 20 years of marriage, it actually broke. Why did it last so long? Because there was Jupiter in the second from the marriage point. Therefore, because of Jupiter, because of the children, they were maintaining the marriage and he was not leaving. However, the 8th house from the Upapada indicates that death of the relationship, that which can break the relationship. So if there's malefics in the 8th, it means it was a really hard separation. If there's benefic, then it was a problem, but it was something, it was manageable. We were more open to that transformation, to that change. Be careful of planets in the 8th house from the marriage point. When they get activated through Vipshotari Dasha or through transits, or because we're going into that realm of our life, they can take us away. They can give an end to that marriage. So Venus is in the 8th from the marriage point. Maybe it was an affair. If it was Mars, then it could be something connected to a brother, a sibling. It could be something connected to a hike excursion, like a sport adventure. One partner went, they got very into their Martian pursuits and that could have broken it. Maybe they went for holiday, etc. If Rahu is there, then we have to watch our vice, we have to watch our obsessions, otherwise we could cause a problem. If the Ascendant Lord is there, then it is us, we are creating a situation that can break the relationship. The 9th Lord is there, maybe it was the father maybe it was a teacher. If the moon is there, maybe it's the mother-in-law. Maybe it's our mother, right? So that we all want to be mindful. We want to be mindful of that. If the Upapada is in the 4th house, from the 4th house, the 11th house is the 8th. That means our friends could break the relationship. If Mercury is there, friends could break the relationship. Be careful of the planet in the 8th house from the marriage point. The 12th house from the marriage point also is that which causes loss to our marriage, that which can create difficulty. If there's both malefics in the 2nd and 12th house from the Upapada, it's a very difficult combination. The 7th house from the Upapada, the 7th house from anything is the gate into that. It's the entry door. So the 7th house from the Arudha Lagna is that which can make us famous, while the 7th house from the Upapada Lagna is that which allows us to enter into marriage, that which will help to solidify a relationship. Often I have seen that the partner will have their ascendant in trines from the Upapada. If the partner does not have their ascendant in trines from the Upapada, have a look at the Navamsha Lagna. If it's not the Navamsha Lagna, then there is usually a strong planet associated that is uniting the two. For example, if there's Jupiter with the Upapada Lagna, then the partner might have a very strong Jupiter. In this way, we can read the marriage point. If you would like some examples of this in some charts, right? Let me know in the comments. I would love to share that with you. Let me know if you've heard of the Upapada before. How many of you are using this technique of the Upapada Lagna? Fasting on the day of the marriage point of the Upapada Lagna is extremely auspicious. We fast on the day of the Upapada Lagna, we're eating up all the evil reactions, all that challenging karma that we have associated with marriage. It's one of the most difficult days to fast, the weekday of the Lord of the Upapada. So if the Upapada Lagna is in Aries, we fast on Tuesday because Mars lords Aries and Mars is connected to Tuesday. If the Upapada Lagna is in Virgo, then we fast on Wednesday, which is connected to Mercury. Fasting on these days, particularly taking a sankalpa, taking a vow. For 1 month, I'm going to fast every Wednesday. For 2 months, for 1 year, I'm going to fast every Wednesday. Please respect your health. Only fast if your health allows. But doing this practice, it will help us to eat up our relationship karma. We'll be confronted. All these thoughts will come up. He said this, she said that. And we will work it through. It makes us very attractive to the opposite sex. It's a very powerful remedy to increase the strength of our marriage point and to pass through difficult times or to attract the other person into our life. The relationship between the Upapada Lagna and the other Ārūḍhas becomes very important. The house relationship between any planet or any point in the chart tells us more about their feelings towards each other. For example, planets that are in the 6th house from the ascendant, we tend to have more inimical feelings towards them. If there is the sun in the 6th house, it can indicate enmity with the father. If the moon is there, it can indicate enmity with the mother. Planets that are in the 8th house from the ascendant, we struggle to understand. Look at the ascendant sign in the 8th house from your ascendant. That is one area that we don't understand. For example, Cancer ascendants. They have Aquarius in the 8th house. Cancer is all about emotions and heart. And Aquarius is all about AI, artificial intelligence. They naturally are incompatible towards each other. Think of Virgo ascendant. Virgo is Aries in the 8th house. Virgo is all about independence. While Aries, it is about the general, following orders, following authority, etc. Like following the rules to the T. Virgo doesn't understand that. So in the same way also, we can look at the relationships between the Ārūḍhas. Particularly, we want to look at the relationship between the Arudha Lagna and the Upapada Lagna. If the Arudha Lagna is placed in trine from the Upapada Lagna, that is very auspicious. That ensures there's a lot of fortune in the relationship. If the Arudha Lagna is placed in Kendra from the Upapada Lagna, that also, Kendra indicates stability. That's good. If the Arudha Lagna is placed in the 3rd or 11th house from the Upapada Lagna, that is an Upachaya relationship. It indicates a mutual gain. The 3rd house, the house of effort, there's some effort, and the 11th house, the house of gains, there's gains. The 1-7 relationship, opposition or conjunction is also auspicious. It's also auspicious. Conjunction indicates similar worldviews and opposition means complementary natures. So we like the Upapada Lagna to be placed either in trine, in Kendra, in Upachaya, or in mutual opposition. If the Arudha Lagna is placed in the 2nd or 12th house of the Upapada Lagna, we have the energy of the 2nd house, which is auspicious, but we also have the energy of the 12th house, the house of plots, which is a Dushtana. So we have a little bit of this Dushtana frequency in this relationship. It usually means that one person is giving much more than the other. It is not an equal give and take relationship. It is unequal. Usually, if the Upapada is in the 12th house from the Arudha, then it is the partner who is losing. It is the person themselves, the Arudha, who is giving and who's losing to the partner. While if the Arudha Lagna is in the 12th house from the Upapada, then it is the partner who's giving and losing towards the other person. In practical reality, if the Arudha and Upapada are in a 2-12 relationship, you ask any of the two, they will always both say that one person is giving more, I give more than the other person. So it is not a good relationship, it is unequal. If the Upapada is placed in the 6th or 8th house from the Arudha Lagna, that is even stronger Dushtana energy. Usually means one person is the perpetrator, one person is the victim. There's a little much more fighting and distress. There's an unharmonious relationship. Often such a couple will be seen as fighting a lot, since the Upapada and the Arudha represent the image that is in the world. And there's a disharmony between our image and the image of our partner. The relationship between the Upapada and the Darapada also becomes very important, because the Darapada is that which we love, that which we fall in love with. While the Upapada is the person we're married to. So we like it if the Upapada and the Darapada are in trines from each other. If the Upapada and the Darapada are in trines, we love whom we marry. If the Upapada and the Darapada are in Kendra, in Upachaya, in opposition, that's all wonderful. But if the Upapada and the Darapada are in a Dushtana relationship, 2-12 or 6-8, then it often indicates that it is difficult for us to love the other person. We might love them before when they were just a Darapada, but then once that relationship fructified into the Upapada, it could have been difficult for the person of this combination to continue that love. And maybe you're better being friends. It just indicates there's a little bit of disharmony with romantic feelings. If the Upapada and the Arudha are in a mutually beneficial relationship from each other, and the Upapada from the Darapada also is in a mutually beneficial relationship, that indicates that this is the best relationship that we will get in this lifetime. It will take a long time to get another relationship like this. And if they are not in a beneficial relationship, maybe it's time for some Upapada fasting. Maybe you want to strengthen other planets, which will bring harmony in that relationship. In our next lesson, we learn about the Atma Karaka and the Dārāpada, which indicates the soul nature of both partners. Sometimes we find that the Upapada and the Arudha Lagna are not well placed from each other, which means there's a lack of balance, there's a lack of harmony in the social relationship. But if the Atma Karaka and the Dārāpada are well placed from each other, well, who cares? At least there's a soul level connection between the couple. If you've been wondering how to see multiple marriages in the chart, the Upapada Lagna is our first long-term relationship. The 8th house from the Upapada, it's the death of that relationship, it is also our second partner. So we can simply move the Upapada to the 8th house from itself every time a person changes their marriage. Especially in modern society, we often have first, second, sometimes even third marriage or more. This becomes extremely important, and this is how we can judge in the horoscope. Maybe the first marriage was very difficult, but the second was easier. Maybe the second was wonderful and maybe the first was wonderful and the second was more difficult. That will be seen from the 8th house from every Upapada. Have you heard of those techniques before? Was this something new? Was this helpful? I would love to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments. If you would like some examples for anything we've taught today or anything we've taught in the past, please let me know. We have a lot to share. In our next lesson, we're going to discuss the relevance of the Dārāpada and the Atma Karaka. Thank you again. Have a blessed day. Bye.